once and for all. That'll be my motion. Follow the P and Z board recommendations. Right.
All right, all those in favor? All those opposed, same sign. 5-0. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Fairchild.
Okay, thank you very much, and again, I appreciate the way we've been treated on this project. Thank you.
All right, moving down to number 2, the resolution for defining continuing the repetitive spills from raw sewage into the Withlacoochee River and Mud Creek by the city of Valdosta to be unacceptable and intolerable. Let me just say, I addressed the city commission last night, Mayor Catron and the city manager here. We have got a vote from the city of Madison, 4-0, last night to join us in this resolution. And so, with that, I'll open up to others.
Mr. Chair, well, I was just gonna say, I will be going to the city of Greenville tomorrow night to get their support of this resolution also.
I believe that, I guess we can do that in part of the discussion, but, it would be my motion to adopt resolution 2019-03-13.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to adopt 2313, excuse me, 313, 2019. Any other discussion?
Yes, this resolution, Sherilyn and Brian and others, utilize the one that the task force adopted last week, which that y'all approved me to vote yes on at the last meeting. We just added in a few other things that we would like to see happen for Madison County, one being the timely notification of the event and a few other things. And I think the intent too is, they've already contacted the town of Lee, is they're going to actually adopt a form of this resolution, either this resolution or they may make a few tweaks of their own. And I think the intent would be the other cities, if they would, to adopt a resolution, or I guess this resolution. So, anyway.
Okay. Thank you. Any other comments? Have a motion to accept this. We have a motion.
Yeah, we got a motion.
Motion second. All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. All right, 5-0. The presentation of the 2015 water use estimates and upcoming water supply planning activities. Mr. Ben Glass, Swan River, I think we have 2 or 3 individuals.
We do, Mr. Chair, and I'm actually here just in support, so if it's all right with you, I'm gonna let our water supply planner, Amy Brown, do the presentation.
All right, step forward, please.
Good
Good morning.
Sir, are you gonna be advancing the slides? I will. Okay. So good morning, my name is Amy Brown. I'm the water supply planner for the Swan River Water Management District, and this is an information item just to let you know where we are with water supply planning for Madison County, and then I'll just touch on the district as a whole and what kind of upcoming activities we have. One of the things that I submitted in advance to you was this kind of Madison County fact sheet. What we're trying to do right now is we're just trying to get eyes on our water use estimates for 2015. So this is something that came out in advance, and just we're seeking input on anything that, any observation that people might have. If there are permits that we're representing as active water users that are no longer active, that's the type of feedback that we're seeking for that. So as you're able to take a look at that sheet, please let me know if you have any feedback. So you can go ahead and go to the next slide here. So the Suwannee River Water Management District has 4 core mission areas: water supply, water quality, flood protection, and natural systems. So my role in the district is water supply planning, and what we're trying to do is we're trying to get the best possible estimates of current use and projections of future use. So we can use that data to inform people who are doing planning for the region, and also to inform the people who are making decisions on permits, and to use that information to compare to what kind of flow constraints there might be for natural systems in the area. So on the previous slide, you can see Madison Blue Spring. That's the outstanding Florida spring that we have for Madison County, and certainly we want to make sure that we're protecting that. So we've got, our charge, as I discussed, was to make sure we have a sustainable supply of water, both for people and the environment. the foundation of that is getting good estimates of water use, and so that's where we're coming to just share with you what we have for our 2015 estimates of water use and what's gonna be coming up in terms of planning and projections. Going forward from 2015, we will be providing annual estimates of water use that you can use as you're kind of trying to look at your county and projections and growth management, things like that. So last year, we accepted a water supply assessment, and that was in 2018. There was a recommendation for regional planning. So on this map here, we now have 2 planning regions. There's one on the eastern side, that's Hamilton, Suwannee, Columbia, Union, Bradford, Alachua, and Gilchrist. That's a current active planning region that we have. We plan there jointly with the St. Johns River Water Management District to ensure a sustainable water supply. One of the recommendations in the water supply assessment that was approved last year was that we initiate regional planning west of the Suwannee with Withlacoochee rivers and then into Levy County. And that would be doing the same activities, looking at projected growth, how much water demand that growth comes with, and then making sure there's sufficient supplies. If there is not sufficient supplies, that's when you would initiate projects. So on the next slide, we have the projected growth for this area. We're right about 19,200 people in Madison County right now. And on the next slide, we have the estimated water use associated with that growth. And so we're at about 24 million gallons per day of water use that's estimated in Madison County, so about 24 million gallons per day. So we go to the next slide, this kind of shows the distribution of that water use. You can see that similar to most of the counties that are west of the Suwannee with Withlacoochee, agriculture is the dominant water use in this district, or in this county. It's about 20 million gallons per day of water use that is for the agricultural industry. And then in addition to that, there is livestock irrigation. Right now we have it split out. There's the water irrigation, water to grow crops, and also the water that goes to, oh, I'm sorry, you don't have values there. There are percentages associated with that show up on my slide. So it's about 82% agricultural, about 4% livestock, which is that pink section there. Moving your way around the pie to the blue section, that's your domestic self-supply. That's about 4% also. And then going, the next one over is landscape and recreational irrigation. That's your ball fields, golf courses, things like that. That's about 1%. The gray is the commercial, industrial, institutional, mining, and dewatering. So that in this area would be, Nestle would be the dominant water supply user in that group. That's about 4%. And then your public supply is about 5%. So that kind of shows the distribution of water use that is happening in the county right now. This is just to kind of give you a reference for comparison. So this is the district-wide water use, so you can see that agriculture is still the dominant water user, but maybe not quite as much. We have 2 large industrial users, which is that gray section in other counties that make up a good portion of the water use for that sector. But the distribution of water use in Madison County is pretty consistent with what most of our district sees in terms of water use. And we can compare that again to the statewide estimates on the next slide. Oh. Okay, well, there's a statewide estimate on the next slide that didn't make it through for whatever reason. I'm sorry about that. But what it's showing, and the point I want to make is that when you look at the state of Florida as a whole, their water use is more than half public supply. So most of the state of Florida is putting most of their water towards public supply uses. And so when we start to talk about doing projects and what types of projects we would want to bring online, in our district, a lot of that is focused on agricultural cost share and that conservation efforts, because that's our biggest chunk of water use. In other districts, they might focus on putting reclaimed water from public supply towards a beneficial use, and that's certainly something that we look at as well. But if you think of the relative magnitude of the water in the different sectors, we need to focus more on making sure that we're getting as much efficiency as we can out of agriculture, and less focus in our district would be on big public supply projects, because that's just not our dominant use at this point in time. So in terms of next steps, we're going to be finalizing our water use estimates for the district. And then we're going to be developing projections going forward to look at how much growth we're anticipating. Those estimates of 15 use and those projections are going to be used as we set minimum flows and minimum levels. Those will be on the Suwannee, the Santa Fe, the Steinhatchee, and then also for those existing priority water bodies like Madison, Blue Spring that have minimum flows set, we would be using those estimates to do evaluations of those priority water bodies. Once we get our projected demands, we're going to compare those projections to the available resources, the needs of the resources to ensure a sustainable water supply. And we would be looking at projects, if there's a problem where meeting the projected demands and sustaining the natural resources is a challenge, then we would be looking at what projects we could bring online to provide alternative water supplies, to increase conservation, to make sure that both are getting the water they need. So this image right here, I just wanna make you aware, so in terms of growth projections, we haven't fully projected our estimates of future water use, but for agriculture specifically, we are getting that information from the Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services. There's a concerted statewide effort to get us good estimates of current use and projections of future use, based on crop type, based on economics and all these other factors. And so I wanna make you aware that there are already growth projections available for Madison County through the Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services. We will be using those projections. And so what they're showing us is we're at about 20,000 irrigated acres in Madison County for 2016. That is projected to grow to about 26,000 irrigated acres by 2040, based on the economic models that they're looking at. So there is about a 6,000 acre projected increase in irrigated acreage for this county based on the models that they're running. So that would translate to about an 8 MGD, 8 million gallon per day increase in water demand if this growth occurs as it is projected to grow. And so that's the information that we will be using as the basis for our planning going forward. And so this is an illustration, again, this is from the Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services. This is a report that they update annually. The left-hand side of that graph is showing their estimate of where irrigation is occurring as of 2016. The right-hand side of this, the yellow that's showing up there, so there's the pink is the irrigated acreage. The yellow that's showing up on the right-hand side image is the types of lands that they're projecting would increase in irrigation. So not that specific plot, but that type of plot is the type of plot they're projecting would see increased irrigation if the economic models that they're projecting bear fruit and they move forward as projected. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Have a question in the audience? Yes, ma'am.
Well, my name is Cynthia Dell Langston, and I do have a question for the Water Management District, and it is, several years ago, our community was bombarded with pivot irrigation, over irrigation into our communities. They were irrigating and irrigating into our